Good morning. This is my first time doing a video presentation of this kind to people around the world, but I wanted to welcome you to this introduction to ICU. My name is Robert Eskildsen. I'm a professor of modern Japanese history at ICU, and starting in April, I'm going to be the new vice president for academic affairs. We're now in the midst of a big global crisis. Everybody is having to deal with the coronavirus, which is spreading around the world, and it's true, as true in Japan as it is in your countries. I hope all of you are safe and well, and once again, thank you for joining us today. So we're going to start with a very brief video that will introduce you to the campus. This is McLean Avenue, which runs from the main gate to the central part of the campus. It's a really beautiful street. At around this time of year, the cherry blossoms are just about to come out. And here you can see a picture of the chapel, which is at the end of McLean Avenue. This is University Hall, where most of the classrooms are and where most students will be studying here. This is a central grassy area in front of University Hall. This is a picture of the library, and it has two different wings, one with a Center for Teaching and Learning inside it and space for students to study, and another with the books and online resources that the students can use. This is the science hall. This is where students who take science classes usually take their classes. It has laboratories, computer facilities, and faculty offices. This is the educational research building. That's where my office happens to be. A lot of faculty offices are there. This is Diffendorfer Decon, where a lot of student services are. In the background of this picture, you can see a lot of the dormitories. There are quite a few dormitories on campus. It's a really beautiful campus. A lot of trees, a lot of greenery. So more pictures of the dormitories. There are 10 dormitories on campus. So let me now move on to talking more in detail about the university. The first thing I wanted to do is to introduce the university by using some statistics, just to give you a brief sense of what the university is like. It's a fairly new university. It was founded in 1953, not long after the Second World War. And one of the sort of core commitments of the university is a commitment to peace. That definitely was the spirit in which the university was founded not long after the Second World War. And we put a great emphasis on responsibility as global citizens. There are about 3,000 students at ICU. Compared to many universities in Japan, this is a fairly small number. It's not a really big university, but compared to liberal arts colleges in the United States, for example, it's about the same size, and we have a really good diversity of students on campus. There are about 155 faculty members. 37% of them are non-Japanese. I'm one of those. So we have a very good mixture of faculty members, so Japanese and non-Japanese. And many of the Japanese faculty members have received their advanced degrees in foreign countries, the United States, Europe, or elsewhere. So we have a very international faculty as well. The faculty-student ratio is also pretty low. It's 1:19. And we have a lot of majors, 31 majors, so that when students come to Japan, they have the opportunity, or rather come to ICU, they have the opportunity to choose from a wide variety of majors that they can study. We can sort of answer the interests and needs of a really wide variety of students with our academic program. We have a lot of courses, 840 courses that are spread across 3 terms. We're not on the semester system. We're on something that's a little bit similar to the quarter system in the United States, where we have 3 terms. We're actually about to begin the spring term in about 2 weeks. So let me next talk a little bit about our ethos, or what we think is important in education at ICU. One of the things that we stress the importance of is multiculturalism, and I think many of you watching me overseas are in multicultural countries, so you might be used to that. In Japan, it's a little unusual, but ICU is a very multicultural place, and so I think people who are coming from multicultural countries would feel very welcome here. We stress the importance of being a global citizen in international and local settings, and our model or vision of being a global citizen includes these 4 core skills. One of them is communication skills, and bilingualism is part of that. The students are all required to take Japanese and English language courses. They're required to learn Japanese and English as languages. So communication is one of the core skills. Balanced knowledge, having a broad knowledge of the world and of matters that are important to everybody. And then critical thinking and judgment. This is just a very important skill in general for everybody's lives. So we stress the importance of critical thinking in almost all of the courses that we teach. And then creativity, the ability to think something new or do something new, not to be bound or restricted by other people's expectations. And these various different skills are built on a foundation of internationalism, bilingualism, and liberal arts. So let me explain those 3 things in a little more detail. So the first one is the idea of internationalism, and one of the ideals here that we talk about is that there are no foreigners at ICU. We typically talk about people as Japanese or non-Japanese. Personally, I refer to people as Eigo-jin and Nihongo-jin, which is kind of a new Japanese word. People who speak Japanese and people who speak English. And it's not about nationality or what country you're from. It's really what languages you can use most comfortably. And there's a really wide variety of examples, but some people are very bilingual and some people are really good at one language and they have to work at the other. That's all part of being part of the Japanese community, and many of the foreigners at ICU, many of the non-Japanese professors speak Japanese very well. Some of them not as well, and the Japanese faculty, it's the same way. So we have a lot of diversity of languages in our faculty. We also have students from a wide range of countries, about 55 countries. So that many of the students here are Japanese. Some of them are returnees, Japanese who have lived overseas and are coming back. And then there are students from Europe, North America, Asia, and other parts of the world. So it's a very diverse student body. One thing that's really unique and important about ICU is that we don't have special programs outside of language programs. We don't have special programs for foreign students, for non-Japanese students and Japanese students. In other words, we don't segregate the students, which is really important. So if you're living in the dormitories, you have a chance to meet people from all kinds of different groups. And when you're in your classes, you also have a chance to meet a wide variety of students. So this is how we, in a sense, embody internationalism in the experience here at ICU. Let me now talk about bilingual education. The bilingual education is referring to English and Japanese, these are the two basic languages. We also encourage everybody to take a third language so that they're not even, in a sense, limited by English and Japanese. Currently, about a third of our courses are offered in Japanese. The courses that I teach, for example, 31% of the courses are offered in English, and the courses that I teach, for example, are in English. If you are if you're a sort of English language dominant person, there are a lot of courses that you can teach. But in those cases, you also have to take some courses in Japanese. And we're working on increasing the number of courses in English to 40% over the next couple of years. For those of you who are not native speakers or near native speakers of Japanese, good luck. It takes a lot of work, but it's something that you can do if you work at it, especially if you start when you're young. Being able to speak another language opens up a different perspective on life. I know that from my own experiences. So I think it's really wonderful for everybody to have a really deep understanding of at least one foreign language. So coming to Japan to learn Japanese or get better at Japanese is a really great thing for you to consider. So I hope a lot of you are thinking about doing that. The bilingual education at ICU is, first of all, if you look at the two different language programs, we have two different language tracks. One of them is English for Liberal Arts, the ELA program. And this is primarily for Japanese students who need to learn how to speak, read, write, understand spoken English better so that they can take courses in English. And then on the other side, you have the Japanese language programs. And these are for the students who need to improve their Japanese language ability so that they can take courses in Japanese. Then there are also general education courses. These are the Ippan Kyoiku courses, the courses that cover really broad topics or introduce students to themes or disciplines in a very broad way. And then specialized courses. And these courses are typically associated with majors. As I mentioned before, we have 31 majors. So if you want to learn about something really specific, you can take a specialized course. But because it's a liberal arts college and we stress balanced education, you also have to take some specialized courses that are in areas outside of your major interest. And then an important point that I wanted to make here is that it says here that the students from the ELA program and the GLP program are mixed, and ICU does not separate students based on their language background. The students tend to separate themselves by which classes they take. So if you take classes that have a variety of students, then you're going to encounter a variety of students in your classes. In-class communication is often bilingual, and it depends on the course. Sometimes in the courses I teach, I encourage that. I try to put primarily English-speaking students with primarily Japanese-speaking students, and then make them communicate about the content of the course that I'm teaching, so that they can help each other learn the language, but they're also learning about the content that I'm teaching. So this kind of in-class communication is very important, and one of the things that I really enjoy most about teaching at ICU is the fact that this institution is so easily bilingual. It's really wonderful for me I like to speak Japanese, but not every day. So it's really wonderful to have the opportunity to speak to people very freely in Japanese, but also to be able to speak to people very freely in English, and the switch back and forth between the languages is something that happens very frequently in classes, but also in your daily encounters with people, and for example, in my case, when I'm talking to other faculty members or when I'm talking to students. So that mixture of language experience is really important, and it's a valuable part of the educational experience that you'll have at ICU. Now let me give a brief introduction to the liberal arts education at ICU and how it's organized. For most of you, if you're considering coming to Japan to study at ICU, you would probably be put into the Japanese language program. So you speak English, and now you need to learn how to speak or read and write, understand Japanese better. So you would be in the Japanese language program. And for the first, especially for the first year, you have to study Japanese very intensively. You do have time to take other courses. But you have to put in a lot of time to learn Japanese. Learning a foreign language takes time. It takes time and effort, so you need to be ready to devote that time and effort, especially during the first year. And then you would continue to study Japanese language in the second year. You can take general education courses. These are the courses I talked about a moment ago that introduce students to really broad topics and themes. You can take them throughout your time at ICU, but a lot of students start with a few general education courses in addition to the language courses. And then we have physical education courses. Now, we have what are called foundation courses. These are the courses that introduce students to the majors. So they're a little more specialized than the general education courses. But they're also generally broad enough, not so specialized that ordinary students can take them. So they're partly designed to introduce students to majors, but also partly designed to give a broader knowledge to all students about various disciplines and ways of thinking. So there are different foundation courses for several foundation courses for all of the 31 majors, and you have to take a number of those, some in your major and some outside of your major. And then we have area major courses, and these are more, a little more specialized in some cases, much more specialized. They're very specifically designed to meet the requirements for each major. So you would, to graduate with a particular major, you would take some foundation courses, and then you would take quite a few area major courses. And then there are elective courses where you may take a few more courses in your major or some more courses. Electives. We have a double major system. So if you're really interested in two majors, you can have two majors. We also have a major minor system. One of my current students is a history major, but she also is a double major in chemistry, which is a little unusual. She's just very good at both, and so she didn't want to give up one to study the other, so she's studying both. And then all of the majors require a senior thesis, which you typically write in your fourth year, so the last year. And the senior thesis it's a longer exercise, and it gives you a really good opportunity to take on a big problem and to think about it over a long period, over an entire year, and really work systematically to understand and to explain that problem. So it's a very good, a very important part of the educational process. And I think that as students are going through the senior thesis writing process, they sometimes are, they sometimes have a little bit of anxiety. It can be difficult, but when they finish, they also have a tremendous sense of accomplishment, and they really do have a much better sort of systematic understanding of a topic in their major and a greater depth of understanding in their major. Okay, so this is the general overview of liberal arts education. This is sort of a famous quote from Albert Einstein that perhaps captures one of the important characteristics of a liberal arts education. He wrote that the value of an education in a liberal arts college is not the learning of many facts, but the training of the mind to think something that cannot be learned from textbooks. Textbooks are very important. Reading is very important. You can also gain access to a wide range of information and knowledge from video sources or audio sources. But there are things that those sources cannot tell you. You can read a book, but then you're reading an explanation that somebody else has prepared. When you study in liberal arts, you have to find solutions to problems, sometimes not especially difficult problems, but they may be new. And that repeated practice in finding solutions that you have never imagined before trains you to think creatively, but also flexibly. I think that's the real value of a liberal arts education. And in my discipline, history, what I often do to my students is I will make them read two sources, and then either in an examination or in a written paper, I usually make the students write papers, I tell them to explain what is in the two sources, but also what the connection is between the two sources. And that connection is not always really obvious, and I maybe have not explained it directly in the class. So the students have to read the sources, understand them, and then connect the information, connect the understanding between the sources. That's the kind of creativity that a liberal arts education will train you in, and you get that in many different fields over again in the different classes that you're taking. So this is, I think, what will really help students learn how to think and learn how to prepare themselves for the future. And what I suspect is going forward into the future, we're going to need people who are knowledgeable and who are really well trained in solving problems, and to have the creativity, to have the ability to think through difficult problems and look for new interesting solutions is a skill that everybody is going to need in the future years. A lot of people talk about artificial intelligence. It is going to change the way that we live our lives. It's going to change the way that people do work. But artificial intelligence can only go so far. What we have as human beings is a different kind of intelligence. It has more flexibility, more creativity, the opportunity to do something new. Artificial intelligence can do what has been done before and sometimes can do it very well. But what we're going to need in the future is something different, the ability to do new things, to solve new problems that we haven't even imagined yet. So I think that's where the value of a liberal arts education lies. Okay, so thank you very much for joining us today and for listening to this explanation of the program at ICU, and thank you also for your questions. I hope I can see you someday. I hope I see some of you here at ICU, and I hope eventually we can start to travel abroad again, and I can see some of you at future events in your home country. So thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you again.